All right, and just like that, we are moving towards our second keynote, our closing keynote. And I'm delighted to invite to this stage to join me, Thijs. Please come over here. Let's give a warm welcome to our keynote speaker. Right, Thijs, first of all, maybe you can give us a little bit of introduction, tell us about yourself or your background and what do you do? Except for talking about elephants and Céline Dion.
I'm not going to spoil too much. You will hear that in my presentation, so
all right.
Yes.
Well, with that, I just will retrieve and leave it to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I hope you all had a fantastic day today. I know that I'm the only thing standing in between drinks. So I just want to get a stage selfie. I've actually never done this before, but there's a first for everything. And then in the selfie you can show me how excited you are to get to the drinks, my talk, I mean. Perfect. Thank you. I think it was 2 months ago when I was in Zambia. More specific, in Kafue National Park. And we were having a sundowner. Now, I don't know if anybody knows what a sundowner is, but I had to learn that while I was in Africa. It basically means having some drinks and watching the sunset. So that was exactly what we were doing in the middle of Kafue National Park, being surrounded by nature, the only thing we could see for miles. In the distance, we saw a small herd of elephants, you guessed it, 5, walking, and they were making these low sounds. That's like rumbles, they call it. It's a way that elephants communicate for kilometers with each other. You could feel the rumbles through the ground. And the sun was setting, the stars were appearing, and I can tell you, watching the stars in Africa is something else. You can clearly see the Milky Way. It's really awesome to see. And we heard some more animal sounds. You know, usually this is a period when predators become more active. So we heard the sound of leopards. But we were surrounded by elephant grass. And elephant grass is basically grass, you guessed it, but then like 2 meters high. So we couldn't see them, but we knew that they were there. So it was quite exciting. And this is also the point where our ranger decided it was time to head back to camp. So we hopped back in the 4x4 and we drove back to camp. We nearly got lost in the elephant grass because you cannot see for like 2 or 3 meters in front of you. And we got back to camp, and with the team that we've been working with the whole week, we were basically, talking about the day, what we had done, and making plans for the next day. And then suddenly I was like, shh! And I heard a pan flute in the distance, a pan flute. And I stood up, I listened closely, and yes, there it was. Céline Dion, with her mega hit, My Heart Will Go On, was echoing throughout the African savanna. Now, before I tell you what on earth was going on here, I just want to tell you a little bit about myself and my history, and then eventually we will get to that point. Now, I'm Thijs, and I've been a software engineer for over 20 years. I've been working in all kinds of different technologies, different companies, back-end, front-end, you name it, and I've done it. And I think it was about 10 years ago, and at that time I was running my own company together with 2 other founders. And I've been doing that for 10 years already by then, and at that point in time I knew that something was wrong. I got this like uneasy feeling and I was missing something. And this is like condensed in a couple of minutes, and it took me quite some time to figure out. But at some point I knew that if I just continued doing what I was doing and wake up in 10 years, then I would be very unhappy. At that same point in time, I got introduced because I was going to some meetups I got introduced to a company called Q42. And Q42 was a company that I thought, wow, it has such a nice culture, and I basically wanted my company to be more like Q42. And instead of trying to do that, because I was not the only one calling the shots, I decided to join them. And for me, it was not an easy decision to make, to leave my own company, leave the two founders, and go and work at Q42 again. But sometimes when you're in this stage of your life, maybe it was like quarter life crisis, I don't know. You just have to make a bold move and put yourself out there in a new environment, because that's when you learn and grow again. And I did. At Q42, I learned a lot of new technologies, better ways of working, better methodologies, and all that. But after a few years, I was working at cool projects and nice colleagues that I was learning a lot from. But after a few years, that uneasy feeling came back. And I started to dig a little deeper. And I think by then I'd probably written like 1 million lines of code. But I started to wonder, with how many of these lines of code did I actually do something useful in the world? And I realized it was probably not that many. And that really shifted my focus. And I wanted to make sure, how can I get the most out of my lines of code? Now, fast forward some time. Now I'm running Hack the Planet together with my colleague Tim. Hack the Planet is a small department within Q42 where we are trying to use technology for good, in the broadest sense of the word. We have done a lot of different projects. For instance, we have made a virtual reality application to help elderly people combat loneliness. Loneliness is a big problem. People that are in elderly care homes often feel lonely, and we have developed a virtual reality experience to help them with that. Also, last year, something totally different, and it's quite a heavy topic, but an important one. We have made a storytelling website that helps kids, teenagers, to prevent them become victims from online sexual abuse. So there are a lot of kids, 100,000 each year, and their age is like 13, 14, 15, 16 years old, that become victim of online sexual assault. Usually their stories start with, I met this guy on Snapchat, and then sometime later they sent a nude picture that got spread around school, and their stories are really heartbreaking to hear. I have 2 daughters of my own in about the same age group, so that was quite heavy to work on. But it was a big success, and these 2 projects I can talk about for an hour alone. I'm not going to do that, because I want to talk about Céline Dion. But before I do, I just have to mention that the work that we do with Hack the Planet could not be possible without Q42. Q42 is basically having 2 people work full-time on projects that don't make money. And we did some math. I think Q42 invests like 15 to 20% of the annual profit each year into the project that we do with Hack the Planet. So I'm really happy that I'm in that position, lucky that I can do that. So how did we stumble upon doing projects in Africa? Conservation projects, I call them. Conservation basically means protection of wildlife. The project that we come up with is not something that we come up with from behind our own desk. So we talk to people that really know what they're talking about. Through WWF, we were coming in contact with rangers. And with these rangers, they were talking about poaching. Of course, I know a little bit what poaching is, but not too much. So how do poachers work? What kind of animals are being poached? And we learned that obviously elephants and rhinos are the most targeted species. And poachers usually always have 2 things on them when they get caught. And these 2 things are a weapon, obviously. They won't go into a fist fight with an elephant. And a phone. And they use this phone for communication, navigation, sometimes even leisure, because they're like out and about for days sometimes in the parks. And that's when we thought, what if we can track that phone down? So imagine that you have this huge national park. What if we can build a sensor that can detect the presence of phones? Because if we can do that, then we can also detect these poachers. That's actually the first idea that we come up with. And I can tell you that this has been one of the hardest things to actually get done. Something like this doesn't exist. Well, some technology exists, but it's really power hungry, and we have to come up with technology that can be used solar powered in like national parks for long periods of time. So we had to come up with a cell phone sensor that could detect these phones. And we did. Just a few weeks ago, I came back from Zimbabwe, where we rolled out 8 of these sensors. 8 of these sensors that our goal is to help rangers better understand where suspicious human activity is happening. And yeah, it was a big success, I must say. The sensors are all working perfectly. That's always nice to see. If you're writing code, then it's one thing that it's like a website that you can debug. But if your code is running on hardware somewhere in a tree in Africa, that is something else. And also deploying these sensors was quite a challenge, because there was like, there on top of that hill we want to deploy a sensor. That meant driving for hours on a bumpy road, and then walking for hours through the scorching heat in a park that is full of elephants and rhinos and lions and buffaloes. So I can clearly remember that at some point we were driving along, and we come around the corner, and then there on the road is an elephant. And it happened before, and the elephant, he notices us, and seems like he's minding his own business. He goes off the road and disappears into the bushes. So we slowly drive past, and then suddenly to the right there's this elephant. And he has his back turned to us, and suddenly he turns around and comes at us full charge. And that is scary. That is very scary. And we were lucky that we were in the truck, because these elephants, they can run really fast. You won't outrun them. They go like 40, 50 kilometers per hour. And this elephant comes after us. The driver hits the gas. We drive away. After 100 meters, the elephant disappears into the bushes again. So the driver's like, well, we lost him. And then I saw him running in the bushes parallel to the road. Clever little animal. And so I was like, we didn't lose him. Gas, gas, gas. And he comes at that full charge again. And then after another 100 meters or so, he finally gives up, luckily. Yeah, normally being safe behind a keyboard, this is not something I experience every day. So my fear-o-meter has been reset properly. This is what the sensors are actually collecting. So this is a screenshot I took today. Like I said, I have 8 of them in the field. You can clearly see the day and night pattern. So during the day, you see all kinds of peaks from tourists, from rangers being in the area. And in Africa and in Zimbabwe, sundown is around 7. So our sensors are basically configured to only send alarms to rangers during the night, when poachers are most likely to be entering the park. And if you're wondering what a rollout like that might look like, I have a short video about that. So the other gray-haired guy, that's Tim, that's my colleague. And looking at this footage again, I can also remember that usually we had like 1 or 2 armed rangers with us when we were going out in the field, because normally you are not allowed to get out of the car. And we were walking, it was on the second day, I had a backpack full of gear, and it was hot, and we were walking, and he suddenly says, well, I see active buffalo trail. And if there's like one animal that is really, really dangerous, it's a buffalo. So if it's within like 20, 30 meters, it will charge, and then either climb in a tree, but you will probably not be able to manage, or like dive low into the bushes and just hope that it will pass. So then, yeah, it's something else. But still I have to postpone Céline Dion for a little bit. I don't know if there are like big fans in the audience, but just wait a little bit. Because, like I said, developing the cell phone sensor took us quite some time. Like in 2016 we came up with the idea, and only last year we were able to actually roll it out. But in the meantime, we haven't been sitting still, because we were already talking to rangers a lot in preparation of this project, and we also learned that rangers use these things a lot. These are camera traps, and they're used a lot in the field, in national parks. It's basically a camera, you can strap it to a tree, and when there's movement in front of the camera, it basically takes a picture. And they use this to monitor wildlife, but also monitor suspicious human activity, aka poachers. And we developed this technology with anti-poaching purposes in mind. So we heard how they use these cameras, they deploy them, and then sometimes it's like 1 or 2 weeks mission to actually deploy these cameras in the wild. And then after, for instance, 6 months, they have to go back to the camera, change the batteries, and get the memory card out of the camera, and then they can see there was an elephant here 4 weeks ago, and there was a poacher here 12 weeks ago. And that's when we thought, well, that is kind of stupid, right? You want to know that in real time. You want to know in real time what is happening in your park. And then we thought, well, something like that must already exist. So we Googled, and we couldn't really find it. So we decided to make it. And we are called Hack the Planet for a good reason. So we always try to find like pragmatic ways of solving this problem without spending too much time on it. And for us that meant not trying to reinvent the wheel. For instance, these things are proven. They work very well. So we didn't want to reinvent the camera. Instead, we opened up the camera. We added some of our own electronics to it. And because of this, the camera is now able to communicate wirelessly with this box we developed. We call it the Smart Bridge. It basically makes the camera smart. This box contains some of our own hardware and a Raspberry Pi for compute. And what happens basically when the camera now takes a picture, it sends a message to this box. This box wakes up the Raspberry Pi, because it's off most of the time. So the microcontroller wakes up the Raspberry Pi. It downloads the images from that camera, and then we use a machine learning algorithm that we trained to analyze what is on the photo. So is there an elephant or a rhino or a human on that picture? And then came the hardest part, because how do you get that information from inside a park to a ranger's phone, where they're in a place where there's no cell phone activity, there's no 4G, there's nothing. So we're using a satellite modem to send that information through space directly to the phones of the rangers. We worked on this system for about 6 months until we had it ready. We used as much existing stuff as we could find. You might wonder, how do you download the images from this camera? Well, we inserted a Wi-Fi SD card. These things are just off-the-shelf stuff that you can buy. This box is largely based on open source hardware. It was quite a challenge, because for some time the Raspberry Pis seemed to be more extinct than elephants themselves. but luckily we managed. So like I said, we had a working solution and we thought of this for anti-poaching purposes. We trained a model that could both detect elephants and humans. And like I said, we knew a little bit about poaching, but during this project we also learned about another problem. Another threat to elephants. Maybe even a bigger threat than poaching itself. And we witnessed this when we were doing a project in Gabon. Gabon is a country in Africa. I didn't know either, so don't feel bad. But yeah, we witnessed that while we were there.
Donc ce n'est pas bien, on ne va pas bien. On va maintenant mourir avec la faim.
Pourquoi? Pourquoi?
Vos éléphants, ils sont là. Les dents, ils sont là en train de manger. Nous-mêmes, on n'a plus accès de piétiner nos plantations.
So what happened here? Elephants have broken into their plantation, where they grow their food, and were now eating and destroying all their crops. And this is a big problem for these locals. They don't have like a Albert Heijn they can go to buy their food. No, they grow it for themselves. So if elephants go in there, they don't just eat a couple of bananas, no, they destroy the banana trees. Also, these are deadly conflicts. Sometimes humans get killed if you're walking in a plantation and you surprise an elephant, then it will charge and you will not win. Farmers are not happy about this, so they go after the elephant, sometimes killing it. And these conflicts worldwide are becoming a bigger problem. And what we wanted to do is use our smart camera system to see if it would be suitable to mitigate these conflicts. Basically act as an early warning system that elephants are approaching a village. So in 2021, we went to Gabon, and there we have done a project by rolling out 7 of the first smart camera traps that we have developed. And we deployed a couple of them, and yeah, it's basically the same story. You go out into the bush and you go with rangers that are looking for active elephant trails. And these rangers, it's each and every time it's amazing to see these guys work because they can look at elephant dung, elephant poop, and they can immediately say, this is a week old. This is from today. So that's really always cool to see. And he finds an active elephant trail. We deploy our cameras. And when we were sitting at the lodge in the evening, we got a WhatsApp from our camera, elephant detected. It was around 11 p.m., but how cool is that? That your camera that is hanging like in the middle of nowhere sends you a WhatsApp message that an elephant has passed. But like I said, we're using the satellite uplink to send the information. So we don't send the actual image, because that's just too much data. In a satellite transmission, we can only send 300 bytes. That's not much. So we only send the information that an elephant has been spotted and some additional information like battery status and how precise the machine learning model was. So we wanted to go back to the camera to double check if it was correct.
Yeah,
That's the eye. It's the eye of the elephant. Yeah.
Oui, c'est là.
Yeah. Wow. Could it be that it's actually the elephants that are inside the fence now?
Voilà, c'est sûr que c'est le couple là.
So,
Parce que ce sont 3 là-bas.
oui, et on a fait mes 3 là-bas.
Oui. 3 ici.
Oui.
Tu vois, c'est proche.
C'est le même groupe. Oui.
Ça peut être le même groupe.
Well, we really didn't expect that. So for once we experienced a human-elephant conflict when we were talking to these women. And our camera actually captured the same group of elephants that were now inside the plantation having an all-you-can-eat buffet. So for us, this was like ultimate proof that this technology can help in mitigating human-elephant conflicts. I've actually written a paper about this project. It was the first time for me writing a paper. Wow, that's also something else. It took us, I think, more than a year to get through all the review rounds, but finally it got accepted. So that's actually, pretty cool to tick off your bucket list. But yeah, it proved that this works. The cameras were there for many months, like 6 months. We collected a lot of data. We saw that on average, when a camera takes a picture, within a few minutes, rangers get alerts on their phone. And the machine learning algorithm was about, I think it was like 85% accurate. So that's okay. It's not, it can be better. But yeah, you have to imagine that these machine learning models have to run on a Raspberry Pi. So it's not like huge models. And we did some analysis, and that was quite interesting, because usually when an elephant walks past your camera, you get a couple of images. So you first get like maybe a picture of the trunk only, and then a good picture, and then maybe just a picture with the ass on the photo. And if we analyzed that and just looked at the sequences of images as one event, then there was always, nearly always, a good detection in there. So we've tweaked our algorithm a little bit to look at a sequence of events rather than individual pictures. And then suddenly our camera is 99% accurate in detecting elephants. We're getting close to Céline Dion. While we were in Gabon, we were walking through a plantation, and while we were there, I suddenly saw an oil drum in the middle of the plantation. And I asked the rangers, why on earth is there an oil drum here? There were 2 wooden sticks lying on top of it. And the ranger told us that if we know that elephants are approaching, we go to the oil drum and we just go bang on it and make a lot of sound, hoping that we can scare away the elephants. Right there and then, our next idea was born. Because we're engineers, we can automate that. We now have a camera that is able to detect elephants in real time. So what if we were to create a system, kind of an alarm, that could scare away elephants automatically when they're detected? And that's exactly what we did. So in a few weeks, we developed 2 prototypes of what we call the elephant alarm. And it's basically a machine that works together with our smart cameras that uses a light. It's a combination of light and sound to try and scare away elephants to actually mitigate these human-elephant conflicts. I have one of these things here. So this is like the one that we have in Zambia is even bigger. It's like these big horn speakers. They go really loud. You know, audiophiles don't like this, but they do go really loud. And we have like this big LED flash, because imagine in the night when the animals are walking there and then suddenly there's like this big bright flashlight, then yeah, they're usually scared as well. And when we come up with this idea, we usually first, Google if something like this already exists. You look what other people have been doing, and other people have been doing some projects to mitigate human-wildlife conflicts. For instance, they have been working with beehives, so creating a beehive fence because elephants hate bees. We have also seen some other people that actually made an elephant alarm. Was a device that the elephants walk up to, and then the device recognizes the elephant, and then it starts producing sound. We dove into these materials, and we connected to an organization called GRI, Game Rangers International, and they're experts on elephant behavior. And we asked them about these systems, and they were all kind of working, but not really. Especially the alarm that the elephants walk up to. Elephants are really, really clever. So as soon as that happens like twice, they're like, oh, that is not a threat, and they just destroy the device. So we had to be smarter than that. So our system, as you can see in this illustration, works a little bit different. The cameras are positioned on the elephant trails. Usually when you're in these parks, rangers really know well what are the migration paths of elephants. So that's where we position our cameras, our smart cameras. And then, like a couple of 100 meters away, between the elephant trail and the village, that's where we place the elephant alarm. Because we don't want to scare the shit out of the elephants. You know, if they go bonkers and go running, that's also not what you want. We just want to keep the elephants away from the village. So now the elephant is just walking there. He gets captured by our camera. He doesn't notice that. And then for the elephant, suddenly, from a distance, there's noise coming. So our idea was, or is, that the elephant will then decide not to go in that direction. Also, we have learned that, like I said, elephants are really smart, so we don't play the same sound each and every time. We play a different sound every time our alarm triggers. So we have the sound of drills on there, cars honking, some songs of artists, Beethoven, Beastie Boys, and you guessed it, Céline Dion. Yes. And for Tim and me, this was always the running joke. You know, haha, let's put Céline Dion on that SD card, and haha, what if we could scare away elephants with Céline Dion? Not knowing that when we were in Zambia deploying these systems, that evening, we would actually, witness elephants that we just saw earlier when we were doing the sundowner. That group of elephants walked to the pools. They were drinking there. That's where our cameras were, and they triggered the alarm. So yeah, still gives me goosebumps thinking about that. That's really cool that you're there to experience it working, because it's not a given that your system will detect elephants. And just hot off the press, I got a message yesterday from Game Rangers International. That's the organization that we're working with, that they have some video footage and they see the elephants responding to the sound, because we place some more camera traps on video mode. So you basically see this elephant walking, and in this scenario it was actually a Beethoven classical song, and it starts playing and you see the elephant like, and then the intensity of the music increases, and then he's like, and then he chooses to walk away from the pools. So it's not like scientific proof yet, but we have some anecdotal evidence that this is actually working. I must give a shout out to these rangers from Game Rangers International, because working with them really made me appreciate what they are doing. These people are taking care of orphaned elephants. So these are like baby elephants that are orphaned, usually because their parents got slaughtered by poachers. And they take these elephants in, and they nurture them, they feed them, and then eventually they go to Kafue National Park, to the release facility where we were, and they're released into the wild. And these people that take care of these elephants are with these baby elephants 24/7. They don't go home. At night, the elephants sleep in a barn, so to say. But during the day, they can roam freely, but they don't go out alone. The rangers are always there with them, because the elephants see the ranger as their parent, basically. So they never leave their side. So that means that these caretakers are taking care of these elephants 24/7. It shows real commitment from these people. And in the release facility where we tested our systems is actually where they are also suffering from elephants breaking into the camp. Sometimes elephants break into the camp, so this was like the perfect testing grounds for our system, close to the camp, deployed our sensors. And some of the elephants are also collared, so they have a GPS collar, so we can actually track them on a map. So we got some other anecdotal evidence from a repeller going off and then seeing the GPS location from the elephant going away from our alarm system. Again, I have a little video of this rollout. Now, as you can see in the video, we always try to develop some hardware that can be used standalone, doesn't require a lot of maintenance. So you can just hang it up in a tree with a solar panel, and as long as it gets enough sun, it will just keep on working. We always also train the rangers, local teams, so that they know how to handle the hardware. So sometimes they want to like reposition it to a different location, and after us being there, doing the training, they're basically able to reposition the system to other locations. So that's usually something that we find important, that like the locals know how to work with the technology. All right, so what's next? For us, what's next is Romania. We got approached by a non-profit organization from Romania that is protecting bears. And they basically have the same problem. They also have human-wildlife conflicts. They have bears going into a village and causing trouble. Well, you cannot really blame the bear, but still trouble occurs. And we're going there basically using the same technology as we did in Zambia to create a bear alarm. So we're going to deploy 14 systems around a small village, creating some kind of invisible barrier. Hey, fun intended, barrier. Anyway, we're creating like this invisible barrier that is intended to keep the bears out of the village and keep them in the forest. And to be honest, this is going to be quite an exciting project. The timeline is pretty tight. We're flying there in 2 weeks. We already have the tickets booked. And we don't have the hardware in our hands yet. I now also know, having done some hardware projects, why they call it hardware, because damn, it's hard. It's hard to work with. I know from our hardware manufacturer that they now have it in their hands. It's produced, our latest revision of the board. I've been deep into C code the past 5 weeks, writing the firmware that has to run on the device. And I can tell you, C code is not my expertise. And like debugging stuff that's going wrong on your device, wow, that's next level. I think it's one of the hardest things I've ever done from a software perspective. And yeah, so it might look like all fun and games, the videos looking very cool and adventurous, but to be honest, 99% of the time I'm behind my laptop solving these issues and coding. And I saw this coming past, and this really illustrates my mood. Yeah, this sums it up nicely. If there's one thing I haven't learned in the past years as a developer, is how to let go of these puzzles. And I always take them with me to bed and into the weekends and all that. So if you have like the tip for letting that go, then I'm all ears. I hear some rumors, so I will be staying for drinks, so please tell me. Okay, the fun thing is that what I do hasn't changed that much in the past years that I've been working at Hack the Planet. I'm still nerding out, I'm still writing code. Yes, sometimes it's in C. That's not necessarily a step up, I would say, but I'm still doing the same thing. But why I do it has changed for me. And for me, this makes all the difference. Now looking back, that uneasy feeling that I had was mainly caused by, yeah, you could call it a lack of purpose, I guess. I didn't really believe anymore in the products I was working on. And maybe it has to do with like becoming more senior. If you're like a junior engineer, then working with tech is all you need to stay happy. But at some point, like what you're working on, it becomes more important. At least for me, it did. So that for me is good realization that looking back, it was really like missing that sense of importance on the projects that I'm working on, and that is 100% changed. And if there's anything that I've learned from doing these projects in Africa, and this keeps amazing me every time I go back, is that the technology that we use on a daily basis, how powerful and how meaningful that can be if you try to use it for good, to help these non-profits with their challenges and help these non-profits with their goals. This does not happen too often, I would say. More people should do that. And I'm sure that every time we go in a rollout, we come back with 10 new ideas. 10 new ideas that don't exist yet, but should. They should exist. And this is not always rocket science. They don't exist yet, probably because it's not where the money is. These parks that we're working with, these non-profits, they don't have big budgets to work with. And that brings me to like another frustration, and I truly hope that I don't offend anyone with this, but why is it that the brightest minds, the best engineers of this world are working at these large companies, building stuff that, let's be honest, humanity doesn't really need? I don't know, for instance, thank you. I don't think I have to fill it in, but if engineered Facebook creating an algorithm to get more likes and attention, only in the process causing more polarization between people, or an engineer working at an e-commerce platform that is, misusing psychological human traits to persuade people to buy shit that they don't need, or the drill, like only 2 left on stock, or 10 other people are watching this hotel room right now, book now. That frustrates me. So my hope is that more engineers will see what they can actually do with their skills if they apply it for good. And even more so, that more companies, maybe inspired by Q42, will empower these engineers to work on projects that are not making a profit, that are not driven by commercial decisions, but that are actually trying to do some good in the world. Thank you.
Thijs, I will not lie if I will say that that's one of the most inspiring projects I heard about in really long time now, and it's really heartwarming one as well, so I salute you, really.
Thank you.
And thank you for being today with us. I really hope that you are staying also for a couple of drinks, because I have gazillion questions for later.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we have a little something for you.
Thank you.
Here is some nice flowers.
So no questions now, and then questions during drinks, or?
Exactly. That's
perfect.
That's what we're going to do.
So come and find me with your questions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you once again, and amazing job.
Thank you.
All right, and as we are getting closer to the closure of this amazing really day. And what I want to do first of all is I want to thank you, everyone that's put their efforts to make it possible, everyone who came here to join us, to be with us today. You are amazing people, and thank you for being here. So I applaud to you. Yeah, now let's take a quick look at the 3 sponsor videos, and after that we just will have a couple of more words. No?
In Droptica, we know that excellence does not happen by mere chance. User-friendly designs, a detailed-oriented quality assurance team, and well-established Scrum methodology. This is our response to the fast-changing business environment. Our clients trust that their ideas will be understood and converted into beautiful, functional products. We are Droptica. We don't just make software. We make software better.
Drop is a team of over 70 Drupal developers based in Slovenia. Leading Drupal agencies around the world hire our developers on enterprise-level projects. Our developers join in-house teams, following their processes and standards. We're also proud to be here in Utrecht and contribute to Drupal community growth. Learn more on agiledrop.com.
All right, and just before we go enjoy chats and drinks, I would like to ask here to the stage to take a quick look first of all through our sponsors, which we did, and I would like to invite Esmeralda here to join me on the stage and talk about the team that made it possible.
Well, hello. Thank you. I'm one of the new board members of the Stichting Drupal Nederland, the Dutch Drupal Association, and as such I'm very happy to be able to ask the DrupalJam organization on stage. So please join me, DrupalJam organization. Where are you all? So, well, we've all enjoyed this day tremendously, so thank you all for your effort. And if you think like, oh, I would like to contribute next year to the next DrupalJam, please, get in contact with one of us and help us. I've got some little small gift for you all, just to express our gratification. Birds. I think I know what this is. So, here is one. Carol, that's probably you, right? Yes. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Jean-Paul. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's it. Well, that's a heavy one. So I don't know what you've all enjoyed the most today, but please come to us and talk about it. Deze is ook heel groot. So give it up for these amazing people that made this day possible. Thank you all. I will give you.
Ooh. So thank you so much. It's just a couple of slides. I'm the one between the beer and the current moment, so I'm actually disposable. Can you click through some of the slides? So I want to thank Lenny as well. We did something different this year. We didn't give the speakers a huge gift, but we give the speakers, on behalf of the speakers, €1,000 to Lenny for the Ukrainian community. So
that's the best gift ever. I mean,
so I think
all the assistance to Ukraine and Ukrainian cause is appreciated more than you can ever know. And guys, it's so heartwarming. Oh, thank you so much.
So
this money really will go for a good cause.
After the Dutch Drupal community, the Ukrainian Drupal community is, or maybe was, very big. So we want to kickstart it again and make sure that you're in good pace for the future. So if you go to the next slide. There's always room for help, and if you want to help out yourself, the community, and us, especially us, do send a mail to us and say, hey, I want to join next year. I want to be on stage. Well, that part you can skip, but I want to help out create this. So please do join. And let's see. Make sure to to take a selfie with the little roster because you can win a free ticket to DrupalCon, also a very nice conference. It is in the Swiss stand, so that's good. And as said, I'm the one between the drinks and the current moment, so if you want to have drinks, have a drink outside, but there's also the pop quiz at the end, which is the most fun event you'll ever be. So believe me, you want to be at 6 o'clock? 6 o'clock at the room over there, and it's going to be great fun. So I hope you all had a great conference. I want to thank you so much. I want to thank the sponsors. I want to thank the speakers. Most of all, I want to thank you. So, till next year. Cheers.
Bye.
Oh, and one more thing. If you're a speaker, who was a speaker over here? Yeah, now all the hands go up, because if you're a speaker, please be sure to go to Rolf. He has got some specials for you as well. A little gift. You also gave, even if you didn't know, to the Ukrainian community. So, I hope you appreciate it. Have fun all, have a beer, and I'll see you at the pub quiz.
Thanks, everyone.